Hi there, I'm here with Umar Sheraz. Umar has been on my radar for, I don't know, quite a few years at least, Umar. And I was wandering around doing my normal sort of scanning of things, and I saw that you'd written this great article on the futures triangle, which the students and the course have explored and they appreciate a lot. And also that you were engaging children. And I thought, Umar, I've got to ask Umar if he would come and talk to us and tell us a bit of your story, Umar. But before we go any further, can you tell us what you do in the real world? You're in Pakistan, you're in Islamabad, I believe. Is that your home turf? Can you take it from there, please?
Well, thank you very much, Marcus, for creating this beautiful dialogue space. Thank you for this wonderful Futures 101 course which you're doing and you shared proceedings with me as well. I think it's a great thing which you're doing. Uh, Umar Shiraz, as you introduced myself, and I'm based in Islamabad in Pakistan. And I work here at a university called Comsats University, Islamabad. And I work there as a senior research officer. So, and I've been involved in foresight and serious gaming for the past 12 odd years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a wonderful experience. Along the way, I've met people like you, other people like, Jose Ramos, Suhail Anayatullah, Rafael Popper,
Yep.
people like these who've been a lot of influence on me. So it's been a wonderful journey. Look forward to, exploring more of that during the conversation today.
Yeah. No, that's good. And I just finished lecturing today for this course, and I was talking quite a lot about games actually, and the emergence of gaming as a what I think of as a specific cultural approach to anticipation, foresight, imagination, opening up the imagination. So that's another area. So how did you get into foresight? Tell us a bit more about that, foresight and futures.
Okay, I would like to take this a little further from when I was going back even further than when I was actually formally introduced to what we call
Mm-hmm.
futures thinking. I've been involved in anticipation for quite some time and thinking about the future in many other ways, actually. So, for example, my master's degree is in industrial engineering from the University of Houston. It's really ironic. I was a stone's throw away
So
from the
close.
futures program in Houston, and I never knew about foresight at that time.
Wow.
But here's the big, thing that I was involved in system safety design, and that's what I was doing at the industrial engineering department. So a lot of what we do in safety and loss prevention is about trying to anticipate what sort of disruptions, what sort of risk could be involved in any activity or in any system, and we try to look at that in a systematic manner, try to figure that out, and try to put numbers to it. So I was in a way involved with anticipation even before I was formally introduced to foresight. And it's always going to be pretty. I mean, I always spoke this whenever I, get face-to-face time with Peter Bishop that, I was just there. We just couldn't get together. It's just a pity. Also, as in my personal life, for example, as a Muslim, I've been deeply involved in futures thinking in this way that we believe in an afterlife, and what we do today is going to affect that life later. So it's
Yeah.
always amazing that that thing was always there. That what you do today will have an impact on life later, or life on impacting others people's life as well. So that
Mm.
thought process was always there. I just didn't know how to put that together systematically. And well, so that was, how, so even before it being formally introduced to Foresight, I had some knowledge about thinking about the future.
That's really interesting, because I would think that everybody has some kind of framework for thinking about the future, but to actually situate it culturally, like you just did, within a faith system and so on, is very special. And it's actually, is it there? Yes. One of the books that I'm going to be talking about next is Zia Sada's book on
Oh,
Islamic
yes.
futures and policy studies. So it's great that you've actually brought that context in, Umar, because it's fun, and I really appreciate Zia's work. Um, so there you were in Houston right next door to one of the biggest foresight educational units on the planet, really. Peter Bishop. Peter Bishop, now I'm telling this for the students, now leads Teach the Future, but he was he sort of actually started off, I think, the Houston program, into which people like Oliver Markley taught, and now Andy Hines is leading that work and doing a great job. So it's a really vibrant part of, I guess, the future's landscape, isn't it? So there you were, right next door. So then you come back, I'm assuming, to Pakistan, and you're wandering around Islamabad. So when you bump into Professor Sohail and Ayatollah, is that the way it happened? Tell me, how did you join the dots in that way?
That bumping was quite an experience, by the way. So I used to work at a wonderful organization called Comstech, which is the policy wing of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. So
Mm-hmm.
they look at science, technology, and innovation policy. And one of the things we used to do over there was that we used to, bring in experts from across the world, and we used to do these courses for people across the OIC.
Yep.
So foresight was a very important component of the science, technology, and innovation policy work which we did. And I remember the first time we were holding this workshop on foresight while I was there. So I remember my boss came up with a big fat book from a United Nations organization. I said, "All right, just read this, and we're going to have this conversation with some experts." It was actually a 2-week program. So I was just looking at that fat book and saying, like, "Wow, I really have to read all of that." And it seemed so monotonous, and it seemed like those pictures and diagrams and emerging issues and all. This seems so, monochromatic, if you want to say. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yes, this is the first day of the Foresight workshop, and Suhail Inayatullah just comes in. I'm just looking at this individual. So no suit, no tie, no nothing. He's just wearing a t-shirt, jeans, backpack on his back, and like, hi, I'm Suhail, and where are we doing this workshop? It's like, wow. So this is the gentleman. But then when he started, my goodness, my goodness. Oh my goodness, it's been such a, I like to say this, that I got hit by the foresight bug,
Yeah.
and life has never been the same again. And it's been a wonderful experience. The past 12 years has been wonderful. But that's how my journey actually started in terms of foresight. From that course, it was also very appropriate. I'm a big believer in, if you want to call it karma, right things happening at the right time,
Yeah.
destiny, whatever you would like to call it.
Mm.
I'm a big believer in that some things happen sometimes at an appropriate time. This was also a time when I was, my thought processes were also being developed. I was a big believer in numbers. I used to do
Yeah.
a lot of number crunching. I
Yeah.
used to do a lot
Yeah.
of my work as a policy analyst was
Yeah.
about crunching numbers around educational statistics, number of PhDs, number of publications,
Mm-hmm.
science
Mm-hmm.
publications, and all, and how they are influencing different countries and their economies. That's what, so science, technology, and innovation.
Mm.
So that was the way it was told to us, that this is the magical stick. If you just pull
Mm.
that stick out and you rub your lamp on the right side, yeah, that's everything becomes
I
okay.
like that. Yeah.
But around that time, the Arab Spring happened.
Ah.
Now, I was looking at a lot of those countries purely from the lens of numbers, from the lens of science, technology, and innovation, and those numbers. And that was a moment when I actually it dawned on me that there is life much more beyond just these things.
Mm.
And we were not looking at a bigger picture. And then some of the things which happened in some of those countries, that was a revelation for me. It was
Mm.
a really shocking moment for me. And it's like, it's very important that we look beyond those numbers as well. And then Foresight came in at that time as well. And ever since, there's been a shift. Uh, I still do numbers, but
Yeah.
I've lost a lot of my faith in them. And I try now do more qualitative work. I do more foresight work now, work around in the trenches, if you want to call it.
Mhm.
That's more satisfying. That is more, I believe that has a lot more impact. So
Yeah.
that's me, Marcus. That's me.
I
That's my
mean,
turn.
this. I find numbers are a really useful way to start a conversation, but they definitely seriously limited if that is the extent of the conversation. So, you know, for me, Graham Molitor's work, who was a wonderful number cruncher, but he also brought in, he was a very great humanist. So he brought in the humanities type stuff, which is the qualitative domain that you're referring to. And, you know, I guess we do meet. Now, you met Sahel, but I think the Arab Spring, that was an incredibly impactful period for many people, you know, around the planet. You know, it got us all thinking about social change and also about the limits of revolutionary fervor when you don't have a vision, you know, a concrete vision beyond the fervor. And you know, we could see that because of what happened in the year or two following the Arab Spring movement itself. So foresight is about visioning, it's about imagination, it's about actually defining with clarity and, you know, serious steps too. How do we achieve preferred futures? Can you give us some anecdotes from your work? It could be the children one that I saw you working on with the rockets of the future, or some of the other grassroots work, because all the people doing this course, actually, we're all grassroots at that level. You know, we're not working at high policy levels and so on, or, you know, in quite abstract situations. So it'd be really great, Umar, if we could hear one or two of the kinds of stories about what you're doing now and how foresight is informing what we might call futures consciousness. Are you what's the word, connected to the futures literacy programs that the UNESCO is rolling out? Riel Miller was, and now whoever's taken that on. What's happening in that space for you?
Well, I'd like to share two incidents from my life which have deeply impacted me in the past few years.
Mm-hmm.
One was with the kids which I work with. I mean, I came across Peter Bishop's work and Teach the Future during COVID. And this time everything was shut down, but Zoom was working. It was great Zoom time. So we came to know across different sorts of work which is happening across the world. And I got introduced to this and I was like, wow, it's a great idea. It's that, yes, our children are our future. Whatever we claim to do, we say that, you know, it's for our children and our future generations. But hey, wait on a minute. We teach them history. We do not teach them about futures and thinking, you know, systematically about the future. That was a great punchline. That's something which I've used again and again. And I think as I work, it dawns more on me. Its reality dawns more on me.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I stood in front of kids, school kids, and I was like thinking, okay, should I I'm going to talk to them about the futures wheel shortly, maybe about the futures triangle and all this. Is this a good idea? It's like kids from class 5 to 8. But I've always been amazed that, you know, you put an idea in front of a crowd and what wonders come out of it. It's always amazing.
Yeah.
So this is a small example which I've shared over and over again, even in my blogs. So what I do is that when I work with the Futures program, we look at the different SDGs and we invite the kids that you can use any of these SDGs, choose one which resonates with you, and try to explore its futures from a local context. So I was remembering that, you know, there are these 17 SDGs and, you know, different kids picked up different, SDG. And there was this group of girls who picked up the one on, you know, institutions of justice and governance. And I was like thinking, wow, doesn't seem a hot topic. You know, there'll be something like climate change, do something climate change, education. You know, these are more hot topics. So I went over to them. I asked them that you choose this one. Why did you choose it? So everybody was asked that why is it that this particular SDG resonates with you? And for them, the answer was that, Uncle, you told us that all SDGs are interlinked. So if this particular SDG was there in our country, the rest would take care of themselves. And I was like, wow, this is class 5
Yeah.
kids. Wow. I'm always amazed that you put an idea in front of an informed crowd and what they'll come up with.
Yeah.
A recent example was that I'm looking at a phenomenon called solar radiation modification. It's an open secret now that we are overcooking our planet,
Mm.
right?
Yep.
So yes, and no matter how much we are screaming, we are not winning. What is happening is that our love with fossil fuels, our love with our lifestyle, it's not going away. Climate change is essentially an issue about consumption and capitalism,
Yep.
and our love for them is not going away. So there are some novel methods which are being, some radical methods which are being also introduced now, that perhaps we need to put some sort of a blockage to the sun so that we can, our Earth, which is overheating, we can stop that heating. So this is some idea which has been floating around for quite some time. So what I did was that this year I've been working with a school called Unity International in Islamabad. So this is the third year I was working with that cohort, and so they knew about the basics, but this time I gave them a practical problem that yes, this is a technology about the future. What if we block the sun's rays? I was like, wow. And I mean, I came in there with, I mean, and this is, I think, a lesson for all of us as futurists. Do not bring your biases and assumptions when you go to any place. So
True.
I was like, this is a serious matter. You need to look at it. I came with that seriousness. But as soon as I put it in front of those kids, one of the first comments which came from that crowd was, okay, if ice cream is not melting fast, this must be something good. I was like, wow, wow. Well, I mean, it's amazing how all of a sudden the mood in that room, it just became so jovial. It became just so joyful, and I had a lot of fun. I'll be sharing that what I did in those four class periods with those kids, and how they explored solar radiation modification according
Yep.
to a local context, what it means for them. It was really amazing. So I think it's wonderful. It's bringing, imagination into the
Yeah.
fore. It's amazing if you put that in front of somebody. Uh, Amazing things turn out.
Yeah.
Second incident which I wanted to share, and using this forum, and it could be useful for
Yep.
people who are watching, is I work a lot with Afghan youth as well.
Oh, okay.
And I remember the first time I was introduced to the Pollock game. So the first time that I ever used it was with Afghan youth. There's a place in in the hills on the north side of Pakistan called Bada Gali, where there is the campus summer camp of University of Peshawar. So they bring students from Afghanistan over there as well. This was
Mm.
during the last days of the Ashraf Ghani government, and that was the first time I used the Pollock game ever. So I remember I was talking to those kids about the future of Afghanistan. So when I asked them dark or bright, and almost everybody was dark.
Mm.
Like, why? Why do you think it's dark? And it's like, we don't know who's in charge. Is it like the US, the NATO, Ashraf Ghani, Taliban, forces across outside of Afghanistan? Who's in charge? We don't even know that.
Yep.
Some people say that, there's a football ground out just across my home. Uh, it's full of landmines. I can't play football outside my home. So
Okay.
how can I say that the world is going to be very beautiful
Mm.
and it's going to be very bright? Some girls, for example, who are from the university, they said that we always have concern. Our parents are always concerned. You're going to the university. Is everything okay? Any harassment issue, any issue of terrorism or anything happening over there? Because they're always worried. So with that, it's dark. But when I asked them, that do you think you have the agency, or do you think that do you think you can actually influence the future, or do you think it's beyond our capabilities? Almost unanimously, all of them were that we believe we can influence the future. And I was like,
Mm.
"Why do you say so? We think it's so dark."
Mm.
But then the thing was that we've been fighting for the past 3 generations. We see no fighting, an end to this fighting. Who knows? But we are a very resilient nation. We've always had hope. Hope is
Mm.
all that we have. If this goes away also, then there's nothing left. So hope is important. It's an important part of our resilience. It's been happening for the past 3 generations, and this is something we'll take on with our kids as well. The hope that something good can come out of this. I'm sorry I've taken a lot of your time, Marcus,
No,
but just
no,
some
this is
stories which I thought were important. You asked me for stories.
no, no. I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled because you're touching on really important points. This question of hope, questions of images of the future, the way people construct their meaning, the role of humor. I love that one, about the ice cream melting and so on. That humor is something that we really need, because you go in there, like you just said, you went in there as a serious thing. We're going to talk about this engineering stuff, that and solar not sorry climate change issues, and we can carry this serious stuff around, and it actually inhibits the imagination in real ways. And I think your examples are fantastic. I'd love to ask you a little bit more about the Polak game. So here you are, you're using the images of the future. So they come up with their images of the future. Was there, perhaps as a result of your interactions with them, was there a shift towards more positive images of the future over the time you were working with those students?
Okay. So you see, for me, the Pollock game has evolved with me. So that was my first time. But
Okay.
overall, what I've seen is that whenever I've done a foresight workshop, the act of being asked about the future, the act of just thinking about it, actually drawing it, actually coming up with some images of the future, that in itself is also very empowering.
Yeah.
That in itself also creates this honor that yes, we can perhaps change the future. So there have been many times where people have actually come after these workshops and said, "Thank you very much. This was great. I'm going home a very different person." Uh, Kids actually, some of them actually have come up with these workshops. Thank you very much for what you've done, and thanks for that. Acha, in terms of the Pollock game, so it's been an evolution for me because that was my first time, which I shared with you. But
Good.
over time, what I've done is I have been evolving. It's been an evolving experience.
Yeah.
What I do now is that before I play the Pollock game, I take people on a closed-eyed visioning of the future. So if you've done workshops with Sohail, what he does right at the very end, I do it somewhere in the middle. That okay, closed-eyed vision, think about your kids. And instead of putting yourself there, I say, all right, there is somebody whom you love, maybe a kid, maybe a child, somebody whom you love, a neighbor's child, your cousin, your son, daughter, whosoever whom you love. Think about their futures, meeting them 30 years from now onwards.
Nice. Yeah.
So I found that to be very, very powerful because now you're just not thinking about yourself, you're thinking about somebody else's future.
Yeah.
When you do that, and then I call them back from they come back from this state of visualizing this future. Then I play the Pollock game with them. All right, now Pollock game for think about that child, 30 years from now, future's bright, future's dark. What can you do now? Or you think you can't do anything? Think about it that line. That I felt has there is a lot of empowerment now with people that yes, we need to, or that urgency that first there is that perhaps I can do nothing, but now no, for that child, I will have to do something. I found that to be very energizing. I found that that brings urgency, that brings a realization that yes, this is just not just beyond me. I mean, end of the day, future is about that we are the ancestors of tomorrow.
Yeah.
So as an ancestor of tomorrow, I need to do something that tomorrow is a better tomorrow for them.
Yeah.
Over to you.
Yeah. That's beautiful, Umar. Beautiful. So we should think about wrapping it up. So, based on your own experience, the people in this course, they're coming into futures. Most of them, it's their first encounter with the futures. What's a piece of advice you would have for people starting a futures journey now?
One thing which I said before was don't bring your own assumptions and your biases in it.
Mm-hmm.
What that does is people also then it has an effect on what people then do during that whole process. Whether you're doing it as an interview, so as a workshop, any consultative process which you're doing, if you bring in biases, people will come to know about it, and then that bias that starts to affect as well.
Mm.
Yes, we go in there with a really clear mind. I think that is very, very, very important. Going in there with a clear mind. I'm there just as a dignified babysitter, if you want to call it. That's what we are. So yeah, just going there as there. That is really, really useful.
Mm.
And have a good time. Whenever I go for these workshops, I think it should be about, having a good time, having a good experience. Less is more. Uh, and one thing, yes, which I would really love to, because because I came in from a safety background. So I remember that one of my first instance when I was doing a safety audit of a company in Pakistan. So it was a trucking company. And so I had this checklist with me that, all right, so just check this truck, whether it's got, it's the horns on, brakes are working. I'm not a big fan of checklists, by the way.
Yeah.
But we still have to do it because you still have to do something official. So I was looking at this truck and I was looking at it and I knew there's something wrong, but the checklist says all is right. But I could just see it and I was saying there's something wrong here. Anyway, I just stepped forward. I was looking at other trucks, and then I realized, okay. I went back to it, and I found it did not have wipers on its window. You know the wipers? It
Yeah.
didn't have wipers on the window. So I called its owner and said, okay, my friend, here's your truck. Where are the wipers? Now, it wasn't there on that checklist. And he said, you know what? Wipers, they're very expensive. So when they broke, I didn't replace them. What I do now is that I cut potatoes and I wipe them on the windscreen. So when it's raining, the water just
It's
skids
not
off.
so-
All right. I call this, what do I say that it was very innovative. By the way, it's a very good piece. If you don't have wipers, you can do that on the back part of
Yeah.
your window screen as well. My fear of the future when I look at futures is that what all we are doing. So let's say there's some wonderful work which is happening in terms of futures literacy.
Yeah.
My problem is that people will start to look at them as checklists. Futures triangle, checklist. Futures wheel, checklist. This, checklist. Just tick, 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 tick.
Yeah.
My goodness, futures, when I was introduced to it, this was about opening up our mind.
Yeah.
It's not about, reining it in through these tools. So
Yeah.
what I call this is what I refer to this as potato proofing the future. Let's not potato proof the future,
I
guys.
love it. I love it, Umar. That's fantastic. Yes. Okay. And now I know what to do if my wipers ever break. So I just have to carry a potato with me, don't I? But so that's a wonderful to connect with you, Umar, and have you sharing your experience in the way you have. And I might get you back. How would that work?
That'd be great. That would be great. I'm having fun. I didn't realize 30 minutes have passed. But yeah, I would love to. Yeah, let's do a follow-up.
Yep. No,
Perhaps if some students have
I've got some
questions.
ideas, and so. Uh, Thank you. Have a great day. Look forward to connecting more with you. And yeah, as I said, students may want to email you if they've picked up on something about what you've been saying. And so I will add your email address to our thing on the on our Bubbler page, just so that they can connect with you if they wish. Thank you so
Sure.
much. Take good
Thank
care,
you. Thank you for having me here. Thank you.
and we'll talk again.
Yeah, look forward to it.